For our first anniversary, my parents booked a romantic venue, but it wasn't for us. My sister decided to take it instead. Imagine building a life, carefully and intentionally, only for your own family to try and tear it down piece by piece. My name is Scott, and this is the story of how my sister's raging jealousy pushed me to my breaking point, and how walking away saved everything. My name is Scott, I'm 31 and I'm the middle child. In my family, that pretty much made me the designated fixer. If something broke, I showed up with a toolbox and a calm voice. If someone cried, I handed them water and said, "We'll figure it out." My life now. It smells like chlorine and sunscreen. I coach swimming at a community pool, and I still find glitter from swim meet crafts in my car's cup holder. I'm married to Julia, a pediatric nurse who keeps trail mix in her pocket and a spine of steel under a soft sweater. We rent a small apartment with a view of a grocery store loading dock, and one stubborn window that only opens if you swear at it first. In my family, I was always the steady one. Translation: the guy who bails water while everyone else drills new holes in the boat. My older sister, Molly, she was the star. A drama kid turned lifestyle entrepreneur. She could sell a room on a mood and make you apologize for not clapping louder. My younger brother, Nate, works out of state and visits twice a year with a duffel bag and a gift card for mom. He's Switzerland. My parents, Lynn and Robert, they orbited Mallory's opinions like planets around a big, bright sun. She said it was day, it was day. If she said it was night, Dad dimmed the lights. Our first anniversary fell on a Saturday. I had a morning clinic. Julia got off a 12-hour shift and still showed up to watch my kids nail their flip turns. Around noon, Mom texted, "Don't make plans tonight. Surprise for your first anniversary. Dress nice." I sent a heart emoji. Julia squeezed my arm. "That's sweet," she said. For once, it actually felt like they were seeing me, not just the wallet attached to me. We arrived at this romantic bistro at 6 o'clock. Fairy lights, a quartet warming up in the corner, candlelight bouncing off glass. And then I saw it, a wooden easel at the entrance with white calligraphy. M+G, celebrating 5 magical years again. The word, again, even had a little gold heart drawn over it like a wink. I just stared at the sign. M&G. Mom appeared from the patio, all bracelets and bright lipstick. "Over here," she sang. "You look handsome, honey." Julia's hand slid into mine. A cold dread started to settle in my stomach. "I thought this was for us," she whispered. "Surprise," I mumbled back. Molly drifted out of the crowd, in white silk that swished when she turned. Greg followed, chin up, looking like he owned the place. She air-kissed my cheek. "We decided to redo our 5th anniversary," she announced like it was a national holiday. "The first time we didn't get the party I deserved. Long story." I pointed at the sign. My voice was tight. "Mom said a romantic dinner for our first." Mom tilted her head, all pity. "Oh honey. We tried to combine the celebrations so no one feels left out. Sharing is caring." She said it like a kindergarten teacher. Julia smiled tightly. "We're not 5. Dad clapped my shoulder. "Buddy, it's one night. Let your sister have her moment." "It's our anniversary," I said. "That's literally our moment." Molly rolled her eyes. "You can have a table. We have the garden and the quartet. Oh, and don't touch the macaron tower. It's part of the aesthetic." The quartet launched into something sparkly. A waiter pressed flutes into our hands. Molly lifted hers. "Everyone a toast," she beamed as if we were the props in her show. "To real love," she said, "and to me for showing up to celebrate properly this time." Julia whispered, "We can duck in, smile, and go somewhere else." I nodded. And then Mom leaned in, her voice sweet and sharp. "Don't ruin this for your sisters, Scott." My ears rang. I set my glass down. "We won't ruin anything." "Good," Molly said, already turning away. I caught Julia's eyes. She raised an eyebrow like, "You okay?" I swallowed the lump in my throat. The quartet swelled. People cheered. Someone shouted, "Speech." Greg puffed up like a bullfrog. And under the lights and laughter, I felt the old script tightening around my neck. Give in. Smooth it over. Pick up the bill. Pretend it's fine. I looked at that sign again. I saw that little gold heart over again, and something inside me snapped. Quiet and clean. We stayed for 15 minutes. We posed for one photo. Then I took Julia's hand, set my untouched champagne on a tray, and walked out through the fairy lights. No scene, no speech. Just leaving. We split a milkshake at a diner 2 blocks away, our wedding rings clinking on the formica. Julia smirked. "Well, that was educational." Yeah, I said, my breath finally coming back. Class dismissed. I didn't know it then, but that was the first real lap in a race I should have started years ago. 2 years later, my sister's jealousy would crash into the life I built without them, loud enough to shake the whole family. But in that small, bright diner with a cherry on a mountain of whipped cream, all I knew was this: I'd walked away from the party. And the world didn't end. It actually felt like air. It didn't start at the bistro. That night was just the headline. The story was older, written in 1,000 tiny lines. Can you grab this? Just this once. You're better with money. You're the responsible one. Growing up, money was an open secret and a closed mouth. We were fine until we weren't. And when we weren't, I was told to be grateful anyway. Dad worked construction. When it rained, he drank coffee at the kitchen table. Mom ran a home bakery and lived on the edge of a perfect crumble. She taught me how to frost cupcakes and how to smile during a panic. Presentation, she'd say. No one needs to see the crack if you place the raspberry right. Molly was the crack with a raspberry placed carefully on top. She was lovable and exhausting. The kind of kid who broke your lamp and then made you thank her for the show. If she needed poster board at midnight, Dad drove. If she needed a check for choir fees, Mom wrote it and called it an investment. If I needed cleats, we checked the clearance bin. When I turned 16, I got a job lifeguarding. First paycheck in my hand, Dad hugged me and said, "Proud of you, son." Then he asked if I could spot the electric bill just this once. I did. Then the water. Then, we're short on the car insurance. They're being ridiculous. I told myself it was being a team player. I liked being depended on. It made me feel useful. And usefulness felt a lot like love. College was the same song, different verse. I stayed local and commuted. Molly went out of state with a glittery send-off party that still shows up in old Facebook memories. Textbooks are insane, she'd text, sending a screenshot. You wouldn't get it. Your program is like swim stuff. I wired money. The gratitude lasted one emoji long. When she got engaged to Greg, a man who wore cologne like it was a hobby, I built their wedding arch out of reclaimed cedar. Molly cried when she saw it. You're the best baby brother, she said. You get me. After the ceremony, Mom handed me a spreadsheet labeled Wedding Overflow and pointed at a line item, Honeymoon Upgrade. We're so close, she whispered. It would be such a kindness. I handed over an envelope with resort credit. Dad slid it dramatically across to Molly so she could open it on camera. She squealed and kissed my cheek. Greg winked and said, "Return on investment, bro." I laughed like it was a joke. Julia and I met at the pool. She brought juice boxes for her little cousin's lesson. I told her she couldn't sit on the lifeguard chair. She told me to mind my own business, and then handed me a granola bar because I looked faint. She liked how I talked to the kids. I liked that she didn't flinch at the chaos. We started grabbing coffee, then dinners, then weekends. She asked about my family. I said, "We're close." And realized I had swapped the word close for entangled. When we got engaged, Molly said, "Finally?" Thought she'd wake up and bolt. Everyone laughed too loud. My parents promised to handle the rehearsal dinner, then forgot to book the place and blamed staffing shortages. Julia ordered pizza, lit tea candles, and made the night feel intentional. She has a way of turning my oxygen back on. After our wedding, the asks got louder because they had a new reason. "You two have dual income," Mom said like we'd won a raffle. "Your schedules are flexible," Dad added, "like flexibility prints money." Molly called our apartment cute, which is what she says when she wants you to feel like a doll. Then she texted, "Greg's business got squeezed by some shady vendor. We just need $5,000 to float. Family rate, no interest." When I hesitated, the chorus started, "You're good with money, Scott. You have side gigs. We do it for you." Which we both knew wasn't true. I kept floating. I told myself I was choosing love. What I was choosing was relief. The quiet that comes right after you give in. The family group chat was its own ecosystem. Photos of Mallory's candle brand, the one that always had a soft launch and never shipped on time. Greg's steak plates from networking nights. Mom's frosting roses. Dad's knee updates. Then the little traps. Who's grabbing dessert Sunday? Scott's got it. He's at Costco anyway. Or, forgot my wallet. Oh. Coach Charity can cover. Thumbs up emoji. Laugh cry. Silence if I didn't respond in 10 minutes. A small turning point snuck in 6 months before the anniversary. The HOA emailed me about a check I'd apparently written for my parents' fence variance. I hadn't. Mom had signed my name to speed things up. The check bounced. It was from an old, closed account. I called her shaking. You forged my signature, I said. Don't be dramatic, she replied. You're making a scene about ink. That night, I told Julia I felt sticky inside my own life. You can say no, she said. And then you can keep saying no when they pretend they didn't hear you. I tried. I said, I can't cover Greg's truck repair. I said, I'll drive Dad to the specialist. I won't pay the copay. Dad went quiet and then said, don't punish us because you married a nurse. Molly called me selfish in the chat. Mom said I was ungrateful. Greg sent a shrug emoji. Guess Coach got a backbone. But no started to fit. It felt weird, like wearing shoes you forgot you owned. Sundays turned into texts. I muted the chat. I blocked Mallory's Candle account after 3 DMs that said limited time friends and family investment, and one that said, wow, so you don't support women? So when I saw that bistro sign, M+G 5 years again, I shouldn't have been surprised. But a small dumb part of me still believed they'd pick me without a bill attached. In the diner, Julia nudged our rings together and said, let's stop auditioning for people who don't clap. I said, okay. I meant it. But my family has a way of dragging you back for one last scene. 2 weeks later, Mom invited us to Sunday roast and wrote clean slate, with 3 sparkles. I smelled the trap through the phone. Julia said, your call. We went because old habits die like villains. Dramatically after too much dialogue. The table was crowded. My Aunt Carol, Uncle Steve, Cousin Ellie, 2 neighbors who happened to drop by. Dad carved meat like he was headlining. Molly wore white again because apparently every day is a bridal reboot. Greg poured wine like he was paid by the ounce. My chair had a printed place card that said, Scott, our rock, with a little clip art anchor. Mom opened a folder. I knew before I saw the columns. We're doing a family plan, she said brightly. Pooling resources. Proportional contributions. No one suffers alone. She turned the folder toward me. There was their mortgage, overdue utilities, Dad's knee surgery estimate, a credit card consolidation, Mallory's inventory investment, and a line called Bridge for Greg. There was a column with my name at the top, and numbers circled like targets. I looked at Julia. She looked at me. I looked at the folder. I said, no. Molly made a noise like a laugh caught in a cough. You didn't even read it. I don't need to, I said. My answer is no. Dad set the knife down slow. Watch your tone in my house. I've learned that when people say tone, they often mean boundary. Julia touched my elbow. It wasn't a warning. It was permission. I took my phone out and slid it onto the table. Screen up. I had a folder I'd started after the HOA mess. Screenshots of transfers, text messages. 12 years of just this once stacked like bricks. I also brought printed bank statements because I knew someone would call the screenshots out of context. This is what I've covered, I said quietly. Electric, water, copays, parking tickets, a motel after Greg forgot his wallet on a road trip, the surprise bathroom redo, Mallory's emergency label print run, the cost of Aunt Carol's birthday brunch when the check mysteriously never came back to me, 3 of Dad's urgent care visits, a tire, another tire, a tow, and the overdraft fees on the joint account Mom added me to without asking and then called it a gift. Cousin Ellie's eyes got wide. Aunt Carol cleared her throat. The neighbors looked like they wanted to disappear into the corn casserole. Mom crossed her arms. Family doesn't itemize, she said it like a Bible verse. Family doesn't forge signatures, I said. Greg snorted. You think you're a saint because you teach kids to float? News flash, nobody owes you a trophy, Coach. Molly smirked. He's making us look bad on purpose. I felt something inside me line up. Not anger. Alignment. Like finally swimming in my own lane. I'm done, I said. Calm even. Scary probably because Dad's face flushed. No more money. No more cosigns. No more pretending. My voice softened. I love you. I'm not your bank. Dad stood. If you walk out that door, you don't walk back in. Julia stood too. We'll send a change of address, she said, soft as a knife. Aunt Carol made a soft sound like a deflating balloon. One neighbor suddenly remembered a thing and left. Mallory's smile cracked. You can't do this, she hissed. I'm relaunching in the spring. You need to learn, I said. I'm not your safety net. Mom's voice dropped. Ungrateful boy. I'm a grown man, I said. And I know where my money goes. I gathered the papers and my phone. Julia took my hand. We walked to the door. Dad didn't move, but his jaw did. Last chance, he said. I opened the door. I already took it, I said. And we left. No slam, no storm-out theatrics. Just air and the sound of my own heartbeat. We got in the car. Julia exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for a decade. "Proud of you," she said in the rearview mirror. The house looked smaller than it used to. Or maybe I did. Maybe I had just grown out of it. No contact is loud at first. People think it's silence, but it's 1,000 phantom pings your brain keeps hearing because it's addicted to being muted. I muted the group chat. I set up two-factor on everything. I called the bank and added a password that wasn't my dog's name, because Molly knows every dog I've ever liked. We didn't change the locks because they didn't have keys. We changed the routine. We chose quiet on purpose. The first week the messages came like rain. "We can talk this out," Mom wrote. Then, "Your father's blood pressure is up." Then, "I can't bake with a broken heart." Dad texted, "Be a man." Molly DM'd me from her Candle account. Then her personal. Then a burner with an inspirational quote in the bio, "You're embarrassing yourself. We're family. Step up." I didn't respond. Julia put her phone face down and said, "Want pancakes?" We made pancakes at night and ate them standing up in the kitchen, and the normalness of it felt holy. Work got bright. I launched a Saturday stroke tweaks clinic that sold out in 2 days. Parents told other parents. Kids who used to fear the deep end started heading toward it like a challenge instead of a cliff. I created a scholarship fund for kids who couldn't afford lessons and named it after Julia's grandmother because she used to say, "Everyone deserves to float." A local sports store offered to sponsor me. I asked for discounted goggles for every scholarship kid instead. The owner blinked, then said, "Deal," and threw in swim caps. The second month the smear campaign started. My cousin sent me screenshots on the side. Mom was telling relatives I abandoned them after all they'd done, like teaching me to read was all they'd done. Molly posted, "Real self-made is the only made," with a caption about jealous relatives. Greg told people I was addicted to attention, which is rich from a man who films his pour-over coffee like it's a TED Talk. I kept coaching. I kept going home to a small apartment that suddenly felt big. I kept checking my bank app and not holding my breath. The first time the balance stayed put for a full week, I cried in the car and told Julia I had dust in my eye. She kissed my temple and said, "Must be a dusty day," and then handed me a tissue without making me explain. Month 3. Dad called from a new number. "Your mother's sick from stress," he said. "Fix this. I love you." I said, "Call her doctor. I'm not discussing money." He hung up. He called back the next day to ask if I had my old lawnmower. Like the previous conversation never happened. I didn't answer. Month 4, Molly emailed me a friends and family round, like she was a startup. "We're expanding," she wrote. "I need 7,000 to bridge inventory. Incredible upside." I stared at the screen, at the words that looked like they were photocopied from every other ask. I archived it. 2 seasons passed. We said no. And the sky didn't fall. We said no. And the fridge filled with food we bought on purpose. We said no. And Saturdays became ours. We said no. And the part of me that lived unclenched a little at a time. Julia and I saved. We toured 3 apartments that smelled like onions and finally found a pale blue starter house near the pool with a stubborn front door and a maple tree that drops leaves like confetti in October. We painted the second bedroom green because it felt like calm and possibility. We didn't call it a nursery because names make the universe tricky, but we put a rocking chair there for reading. I kept building the scholarship fund. People from the neighborhood sent $20 with notes like, "For the kid in the red goggles." The local paper ran a small piece, "Coach Scott keeps kids afloat." We taped it to our fridge with a dolphin magnet that a 6-year-old gave me after he learned to float without grabbing my neck like a koala. 2 years after the bistro, my kids swam a charity relay. The deck was noisy in the best way. Parents yelling for other people's children, little siblings chasing each other with foam noodles. The smell of sunscreen and wet tile. We hit our fundraising goal before lunch. I handed medals to kids who used to cry at the edge and now grinned like sharks. One mom hugged me and didn't let go for a full 5 seconds. "You changed his life," she said into my shoulder. I said, "He did the work," because that's the line. And it was also true. Of course he's out here playing hero. The voice cut across the water like a whistle. Molly. In white again because the theme of her life is bridal cosplay. Sunglasses on. Heels completely wrong for a pool deck. Greg behind her, hands in pockets. Mom near the gate, clutching her purse. Dad wasn't there. People turned. The air changed. Julia stepped to my side before I moved. "You can't be on deck," she said calm. "Safety rules." Molly smirked. "Are you going to arrest me?" He can't hide forever. This wasn't an accident. It was a performance. She wanted an audience. She got one. I kept my voice low. This isn't the place. Oh, I think it is, she said louder. Since you've told everyone you're a saint now. Since you left Mom to sell her wedding ring to pay for Dad's surgery. My stomach flipped. What ring? I asked. Mom looked at her shoes. Julia said, cool and steady, you mean the ring you pawned 3 years ago after Scott bought it back once already? Molly blinked behind the sunglasses. Then she recovered. You think you're better than us because you said no? Because you run a little charity for kids who splash. She lifted her phone, hit record and angled it at me. Say it to the internet, coach. Say you turned your back while your father limped. Every cell in my body wanted to grab her phone and drop it into the deep end. Instead, I put my whistle in my mouth and blew one sharp blast. 5-minute break. I called. Water. Shade. Reset. Parents herded kids to the bleachers. The deck cleared like a curtain dropping. I faced my family. Here's what's true, I said. I offered rides. I offered time. I set a boundary with money. I'm not your ATM. I won't be your villain. Greg snorted. You owe us. I don't owe you a cent, I said. You owe a lot of people apologies. Mallory's mouth twisted. You don't get to be happy without us. That, Julia said, is the real problem, isn't it? Mom's voice came out small. Was it really that much? She asked me and I heard something like hope and like shame. I didn't pull out the receipts. I just nodded. It was. A hairline crack ran through Mallory's performance. Then she hardened. You're dead to me, she announced so the bleachers could hear. She turned to Mom. Let's go. Mom didn't move. She looked older than the last time I'd seen her and somehow clearer. We're leaving, she said. But to Molly, not with her. You're not welcome at his work. Greg muttered something. They left, heels clacking, phone still recording nothing important. Mom stayed. She stared at the shallow end where little kids were pouring water from one cup to another like alchemists. Do you need water? Julia asked. Mom blinked. I need a chair, she whispered. We sat her in the shade. I brought her a cup. She held it with both hands and didn't drink. Your father should have told me no, she said, like she was reading a line she'd never seen before. I should have told her no. You can start now, I said. She nodded without looking at me. They look happy, she said, glancing at the kids. They are, I said. She looked at me. You look happy. I am. She swallowed. Good word traveled faster than water. Half the family called me a traitor. The other half started texting in lowercase at night. I think I get it now. Aunt Carol sent a recipe and a message. Sorry I stayed quiet. Nate wrote, proud of you, man, from an airport lounge with a picture of a dog. Dad texted a photo of his knee brace with the caption, RoboCop. I sent back a thumbs up and a link to a physical therapy video. Life didn't become a montage. It turned into a string of small, decent days. We mowed the maple leaves. We fixed the door. We saved a little. We breathed. And the echo of being needed for the wrong reasons finally stopped sounding like home. The fallout didn't make me new. It let me be myself on purpose. We kept no contact with Molly and Greg. Mom's texts got simpler. We made a budget. Your father does PT. Sold the extra mixer. Thanks for the chair. Our pale blue house stayed stubborn and sweet. The green room slowly became a nursery. Then Julia held up 2 pink lines. Looks like everybody gets to float. I cried everywhere. Bought a tiny swim cap just to breathe easier. Told my Saturday kids a new assistant coach was coming. They screamed like I'd brought a puppy. We told my parents at a small barbecue. They brought ice. Asked about the wobbly step. Mentioned no money. When they left early, the yard felt like ours. At practice I said, kick steady. Breathe when you need to. Float when you're tired. I learned that late. Plain truth. Love that only counts you when you're paying isn't love. Scorekeeping isn't family. Boundaries are life jackets. Saying no is honesty. I still picture the easel. M+G again. The gold heart. Then the diner milkshake. 2 straws. Julia tapping our rings. Let's stop auditioning for people who don't clap. My sister couldn't bear how far I'd come. Her meltdown split the family along the seam where I finally stitched my name. I left mid-party and didn't look back. Not from hate, but to keep the life I love. That's not revenge. That's freedom. If you're under someone else's sign, glass in hand, set it down. Walk out. The world won't end. It might finally begin. Have you ever had to draw a hard line with family to protect yourself? What was the hardest boundary you ever had to set? Tell me your stories in the comments.